only team Indiana has not beaten this season. First of 2 straight between these two teams from Gainbridge Fieldhouse. They'll do it again on Friday after this one as Mitchell drives, gets to the rim, and gets the Fever started. Here's Asia Wilson knocking down her first look.
She's allowed once in a while.
No question. Wilson's finding some space from the mid-range and connecting.
Picture this. Caitlin Clark, the rookie who's been lighting up the WNBA, suddenly looks human? The Aces didn't just slow her down, they rewrote her game. But here's the crazy part. It wasn't luck. It was all part of a master plan. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now back to the video. You know what's insane? The Aces versus Fever game wasn't just any game. It was like the Super Bowl of the WNBA. A record crowd of 2,366 fans packed the arena. Can you imagine the energy? All eyes were on Clark, waiting for her to do something amazing. But Coach Becky Hammon had other ideas. She came with a plan so good, it's almost scary. You're probably thinking, what could stop Caitlin Clark? Well, you're about to find out. And trust me, it's not what you expect. This game wasn't just a game, it was a chess match. And Hammon? She was playing in 4D. You might think you know how to shut down a star player, but the Aces took it to a whole new level. What if I told you they made Clark score more on purpose? Sounds crazy, right? But there's a method to this madness. Let's break down Becky Hammon's master plan. It wasn't just about stopping Clark, it was about changing her entire game. The Aces came out with a strategy so aggressive, it's like they were trying to push Clark off the court. Every time she touched the ball, they were right there, in her face, pushing, shoving, making her feel uncomfortable. And who were the key players in this plan? Kelsey Plum and Jackie Young. These two were like Clark's shadows, always there, always pushing. They didn't give her a moment's peace. It's like they studied every move Clark makes and figured out how to disrupt it. But here's where it gets really interesting. The refs? They weren't calling everything. Some of those pushes and shoves, they went uncalled. Was it part of the plan? Did Hammon know the refs would let them play physical? We can't know for sure, but it definitely worked in the Aces' favor. Now you're probably wondering, how did this mess with Clark's game? Well, it's not just about defense. It's psychological warfare. When you're constantly being pushed and shoved, it throws off your rhythm. You start second-guessing yourself. Your flow is disrupted. And for a player like Clark, who's used to controlling the game, that's huge. But here's the really wild part. Hammon's plan wasn't just to stop Clark from scoring. It was to make her score more. Yeah, you heard that right. They wanted Clark to become a score-first player. Why? Because that's not her natural game. Clark is a facilitator, a playmaker. She makes her teammates better. By forcing her to focus on scoring, they took away her biggest strength, her ability to control the entire game. Hammon basically said, sure, let Clark score, but don't let her get her teammates involved. It's like they were willing to let Clark get her point, as long as they could shut down the rest of the team. That's some next-level strategy right there. And you know what's even crazier? This wasn't about some league-wide hatred for Clark. Hammon made that clear when she said, "We love Caitlin Clark. We're just doing our job." This wasn't personal, it was just business. The Aces were there to win, and they had a plan to make it happen. So there you have it. The Aces didn't just slow Clark down, they rewrote her entire game. They turned her into a different player, one that wasn't as effective. And they did it all with aggressive defense, smart tactics, and a willingness to let Clark score, as long as it was on their terms. Think you know Caitlin Clark's game? Think again. The Aces didn't just slow her down, they rewrote her playbook. Suddenly, the three-point sharpshooter was settling for mid-range jumpers. But why? And more importantly, how did this shift impact her ability to dominate the game? Let's break down Clark's unusual stats. She took 12 two-point shots. That's not the Clark we're used to seeing. And get this, she went 1 for 10 from three-point range. Something was definitely off. So what happened? The Aces forced Clark to play a different game. Instead of her usual three-point attempts and drives to the basket, she was taking more mid-range shots. It's like they pushed her into a zone she wasn't comfortable in. But here's the real kicker. It wasn't just about her scoring. The Aces went after Clark's playmaking ability too. They funneled her into tough spots and cut off her passing lanes. It's like they put her in a box, limiting her options every time she touched the ball. You know what's crazy? Clark still managed to make some good passes, but the Aces' defense was so tight, those passes didn't always turn into assists. It's like they were saying, sure, you can pass, but we're not going to let your teammates do anything with it. Clark felt the pressure. She said, "The offensive fouls are definitely surprising at times. I feel like I do get held and get quite a bit of contact throughout the game." The Aces were physical, and they weren't backing down. But here's where it gets really interesting. Clark's shooting was off rhythm all night. She struggled with open shots and was forced into difficult attempts. It's like the Aces' defense got into her head, messing with her usual flow. So what does all this mean? The Aces figured out that Clark isn't just a scorer. She's a facilitator. She makes her team better. By shutting down both aspects of her game, they didn't just stop Clark, they stopped the entire Fever offense. It's like the Aces said, "We're not going to let you play your game. You're going to play our game." And you know what? It worked. They turned one of the most exciting rookies in WNBA history into a different player for a night. But here's the thing. This isn't the end of the story. Clark's a smart player. She's going to learn from this. She's going to adapt. The next time she faces the Aces, you can bet she'll have some new tricks up her sleeve. Clark's determined to bounce back, but the real surprise came from the Aces camp. You'd think they'd be gloating after shutting down the rookie phenom. Instead, their words painted a completely different picture. What's really going on between Clark and the WNBA's defending champs? Let's talk about what happened after the game. You know how sometimes in sports, there's all this trash talk and bad blood? Well, forget everything you think you know about that. The Aces just showed us a whole new level of class. You've probably heard rumors that the WNBA isn't too happy about all the attention Caitlin Clark's getting. People were saying there's some kind of rookie resentment going on. But guess what? The Aces just blew that idea right out of the water. Becky Hammon, the Aces coach, didn't hold back. She straight up said, "We love Caitlin Clark. Knock it off." Can you believe it? The coach who just masterminded this plan to stop Clark is now defending her. That's crazy. But wait, it gets even better. Hammond wasn't done. She went on to say, "I think this narrative of everybody hating on her, it's not there." She's basically telling everyone to chill out and stop making up drama where there isn't any. And you know who else jumped in? Aja Wilson. She reminded everyone that Clark's still new to this. Wilson said, "Y'all keep asking us these questions like she's this grown woman. She's doing our job and we're doing ours." It's like they're saying, "Hey, give the rookie a break. We're all just here to play ball." Hammond even went as far as to say, "She's a rookie in this league. Back off." That's not just respect, that's protection. The Aces aren't trying to tear Clark down, they're standing up for her. Now, you're probably wondering, what about Clark? How's she taking all this? Well, she's not backing down. She felt the physicality of the game, sure, but she's already thinking about how to adapt. Clark said, "I can use my quickness a little bit better." That's not a player who's been beaten. That's a player who's learning and growing. You know what's really cool about all this? The Aces didn't go easy on Clark. They threw everything they had at her. But it wasn't because they disliked her or wanted to bring her down. It was because they respected her enough to treat her like a real threat. This isn't about trying to humble Clark or put her in her place. It's about raising the level of the entire game. The Aces saw a player who could change the WNBA, and they rose to meet that challenge. They're not trying to stop the Clark show. They're trying to make sure the whole league puts on a show worth watching. So, what just happened? We saw a game-changing moment for the WNBA. Hammond's brilliant strategy, Clark's struggle, and the unexpected respect. It all adds up to something bigger. This wasn't just another game. It was a milestone. The crowd? A record-breaking 2,366 fans. That's the biggest regular season turnout since 1999. The WNBA is growing, and games like this are why. Becky Hammon said it best. "Vegas has been showing up over the past 2 or 3 years, so I'm not surprised. This game wasn't just about winning. It was about raising the bar for the whole league." So what happens when a rookie sensation meets a championship team? We just saw it, and the WNBA will never be the same. Clark's here to stay, and the Aces are ready for the challenge. Buckle up, because this is just the beginning.